I think we have to recognise that Liz Truss is over, and also the future of the Conservative Party is over for the time being. What the Conservative Party must now do is find a way to come together to harmonise. I was looking at a very interesting documentary today about the collapse of the Disney empire round about the time of the Aristocats and the Black Cauldron. And part of the reason for the collapse of the animation part of Disney, before the brief renaissance in The Little Mermaid and Aladdin, The Lion King, and so on, was the fact that people were squabbling. If there isn't unity, the thing falls to pieces, and no great works can be completed. And there isn't unity in the Conservative Party. So you've got the Gove initiative a while ago, the future of conservatism. Then you've got national conservatism, with Suella Braverman stamping around. Now you've got this new thing with popular conservatism. It can't be future, national, and popular, as if it's all different versions of the same thing. They're all organised by the same group. They're all trying to repackage a bad idea. That bad idea is a right-wing obsession with trying to reconcile the Brexit they got with the Brexit that they wanted. It's all about delusion. And there isn't a great mind behind any of this. The great minds have been fixing the problems that were created by this ideology in the first place, fixing the Northern Ireland problem, trying to fix the problem of the relationship between Britain and Europe. The small boats is a distraction in that. And the list of clowns in this circus, Priti Patel, Andrea Jenkins, Brendan Clark-Smith, Wendy Morton, Jake Berry, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Suella Braverman herself, and Liz Truss. I'm only touching the surface in that list. I'm sure you can add many more. And clowns of all types, from the weeping clown to the clown that's dropping his trousers and sitting on a whoopee cushion. But you know, the less we say about Lee Anderson, probably the better. And Boris Johnson, the people who run around the place pining for Boris. People have always pined for Boris, by the way, even since he was at Oxford. Why? Because Boris has innate charisma, and it's possible to be charismatic and wrong. It's perfectly possible. You only have to look at Mr. Putin. You only actually have to look at Mr. Netanyahu. We are surrounded by people in this world who are charismatic and wrong. There are very few examples of charismatic right people. Simply being popular doesn't give you some sort of monopoly over ethical sense. In fact, quite the opposite sometimes. The sense of popular support encourages people to pursue idiotic literally, unique and self-obsessed campaigns. So Liz Truss may be optimistic about the future. She shouldn't be. But I mean, you know, all that hand waving, she's got to be optimistic about something, because clearly all the exercises she does to try and get her hands and her gestures to look as if they're coordinated has never worked. It's never worked. Doesn't matter how many hand jobs she does, she still looks a fool. and nobody is happy with her hand jobs. It's a nonsensical obsession that she can practice and try and get better. She can't. There just has to come a point where a general realization is Liz Truss is useless. She was useless as a prime minister, and it doesn't matter how much she waves around. She is useless as the emblem, as the future of the Conservative Party. I don't really think she should be given airtime. I think she should spend the remaining hours, days of this Conservative administration doing what she was elected to do, which is looking after her constituency. And if she did that with a little bit more care, then maybe that example of commitment to the people who elected her would pay off and would infect other members of the Conservative Party to tend to their constituents rather than nurse their ambition. There's also a person who's got my attention, where she talks about the state is no Mary Poppins. Actually, she's wrong. The state is a Mary Poppins, and Mrs. Thatcher adopted precisely that image when she was Prime Minister. She adopted the image of the disapproving nanny. She became effectively the state, and she said very clearly, the state cannot do everything. There is no such thing as society. What she then went on to say, and what is something that I think people on both the right and the left ignore and forget, is society is made up of individuals who take responsibility for what they do. It's individuals, and it's the effort of individuals that make our state, that make our politics, that make our people function, that help each other. You can't rely on the state picking up the problems, and certainly not today, because nothing in the state works. It's not that we have to go out and do it ourselves. We have to show by example that we are committed to the system and to each other. And that is best done by our MPs getting off their backsides, getting back to doing some hard work for their constituents, and putting aside all this ambition, because it will get them nowhere. Because many of them are going to be out of power, and many of them are going to be hanging their heads in shame and looking for their next job after the next general election. It's better if they now concentrate on what they were elected to do in the first place.